Citizenship in Israel. My name is Michael Decker, and I am a lawyer and the founder within the offices of Decker Pex Levy Rosenberg. How do you obtain citizenship in Israel? This is a question that many people ask themselves. So first of all, it's important to understand that Israel is defined as a Jewish democracy. And the main way Israel maintains its Jewish identity is through immigration. It's by maintaining a Jewish majority. And then the Jews within the country have to tackle on how they would want to define their Jewish identity within the state of Israel. So how does Israel basically maintain a Jewish identity and a Jewish majority? By the law of return. The law of return is basically the only clear-cut law that allows people to obtain citizenship in an easy route. So basically the law of return applies to anyone that is defined as a Jew. And the definition of a Jew in the law of return is someone that has a Jewish mother or a convert to Judaism and is not a member of another religion. And in addition, the law of return also applies on family members of those that meet this definition of who is a Jew. Basically, it applies to the spouse of a Jew, and to the child of a Jew, and to the grandchild of a Jew, and to the spouse of a Jew, and grandchild of a Jew. However, in addition to the law of return, there are more laws. Basically, there is one more law that explains how you can obtain citizenship, but it is not as clear. So basically, we're dealing with the law of citizenship, and the law of citizenship has basically two main ways to obtain citizenship. The one is if you meet 5 conditions, and the 5 conditions are to be a resident of Israel, which means to be a permanent resident, not just to reside in Israel, meaning you have to hold a permanent residency card, an Israeli Teudat Zehut. It also means you have to renounce your other citizenship. Okay, you need to reside in Israel for 3 out of the last 5 years. You need to know how to speak Hebrew at a certain level, and you need to express a willingness to settle in Israel permanently. If you meet these 5 conditions, you can apply for citizenship. I would say the 2 main hindrances in these 5 conditions are: 1, you need to be a permanent resident, and then the question arises, how do you become a permanent resident? No one really knows. There is no clear route to become a permanent resident. And if you are a permanent resident, but you, for example, hold a very good additional citizenship, like a European citizenship or citizenship of a Western successful country like the United States, maybe UK, Australia, New Zealand, and other countries like that, you won't want to easily renounce your other citizenship in order to obtain Israeli citizenship. So therefore, these requirements mainly practically apply to residents of East Jerusalem here in Israel that are basically Arabs that reside in Israel. They might define themselves as Palestinians. When Israel basically conquered East Jerusalem, then Israel granted to all the new residents permanent residency, and all of these permanent residents can apply for citizenship. But it doesn't only apply to them, it also applies to anyone that's a permanent resident, and there were others that received permanent residency throughout the years just by government decisions, and there are other policies that allow people to basically obtain permanent residency. For example, policies for parents of IDF soldiers, policies for elderly and lonely parents of Israelis. So basically, everyone that's a permanent resident and meets these 5 conditions, the additional 4 conditions, can then apply for citizenship. Another way to obtain Israeli citizenship is through marriage to an Israeli, or even through just a relationship that's not a marriage relationship with an Israeli that will lead you to permanent residency, and then you can apply for citizenship if you meet the conditions I explained. And if you are married with a marriage license, you can then apply for citizenship without meeting various of these conditions, like renouncing your other citizenship. In any case, this is citizenship in Israel in a nutshell. Of course, it's much more complex. And if you have questions on the matter, you can feel free to contact us, and we'll be happy to be of assistance.